Hello, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I'm Carrie. I'm a 29-year-old vegan living in Bristol in the UK. I have been vegan for over 8.5 years now, and I live with my fiance who is not vegan, but he does eat vegan at home with me. I make videos all about frugal living in the UK as a vegan, and this week I will take you to B&M to see if I can do the £21 grocery budget for a week at B&M. So I want 7 breakfasts, 7 lunches and 7 dinners, all not surpassing £21 or £1 per meal. So this is a bit of a trickier one because B&M, well, my local B&M doesn't have a freezer section, and their fridge section is purely meat and cheese and milk. So I am going to be scouring the shelves, and they have fresh bread, I think, but I don't know if I'll even be able to get oat milk or anything like that until we get there. I was really unsure what the offerings would look like, but I did eat for a full week, spoiler, so we'll see what I got. But it did make me reflect a bit and think that actually this video will be really helpful for people who are maybe using food banks at the moment and are getting a lot of tinned items, because a lot of what I'm going to be showing you in this week's video comes from tins and shelf-stable items, and I have tried to be a little bit inventive with how I use them. So I hope you find this video useful, whatever reason you're watching it. And let's see what B&M have got in.
So here we are at B&M. They do homeware, they do garden stuff, they do children's toys, food, pretty much anything you need you can get here. So there were some instant soups that were protein and also vegan. Then they had lots of tins of veg, pulses, that sort of thing. Lots of sort of sweet corn, that vibe. Then about a million different types of baked beans as well. Lots of different brands, all branded, mind, no own brand or off brand beans, all branded Branston or Heinz. And then they also had tinned spaghetti hoops and spaghetti. They had Peppa Pig spaghetti shapes as well if you've got kids. They had lots and lots of noodles. So you can see there were pot noodles, these super noodles, pasta and sauce. The tomato and herb pasta and sauce is vegan. And then they had porridge oats, again all branded, Quaker oats, so fairly expensive. Weetabix. Let me know if you know if the caramelized biscuit one is vegan or not, I'm not sure. Then they had the Fuel protein granola, these Thai sweet chili oat cakes, which were vegan, which was pretty nice snack, I thought, and something that you'd think would be a bit more expensive as well normally, only for £1. Lots of biscuits, couldn't go through all of the biscuits, but you can see here that they had Oreos, which are famously accidentally vegan, of course. The golden ones are my favourite at the moment. They have these Serene bars, loads of different flavours, and then you can see here they had squash, juice, water, and then lots of bread. So there were so many reductions on bread. I came after work, so I think it was about 5:30 that I was in the shop here. But I'm just showing you some of the reductions, and all of them had the Vegan Society logo on the back as well, so really easy to tell that they're suitable. They had these bagel thins, they had crumpet thins as well, Warburton's medium loaf, pretty much everything you can think of. So they had tea and coffee over there, then gravy, different types of sauces and oils. They had stuffing, they had dumpling mix, mashed potatoes, these roasted red peppers, which I was so pleased to see because I didn't see too many veg, loads of different pasta sauces, curry sauces, and spice packets for sauces as well, and then about 50 different types of salt. Loads and loads of tomato ketchup and dipping sauces, that sort of thing. And then here, even more curry sauces. I would say curry sauce is probably the most varied thing on these shelves, and then obviously you have your pasta sauces as well. But curry sauce, if you want a curry, then go to B&M. I would say there were just so many of them. Then we had naans and poppadoms up top there. Then loads of different rices as well. So The off-brand ones seem to be the same as the ones that we saw in Farm Foods and also in Home Bargains. And then there were pastas as well, loads of noodles again. These are instant noodle packets, fajita kits up top, fajitas, taco shells, that sort of thing. Not the best price, but not the worst either. Some more noodles, more cup noodles, the Shin ramen ones, really good, and those kimchi ones too, would really recommend. Now, this was exciting. So they had almond milk, they had oat milk, they had soya, and they had that pumpkin spice oat as well. Tinned fruit and cups of fruit as well. They had raisins there too. So trying to find my 5 a day where I can. This pineapple in juice. These were 3 cups. They also had peaches in peach flavoured jelly. All of these marked vegan. Peach and pear in juice. Loads of crisps. So many packets of crisps. Then they had raisins, nuts. Some of these nuts had milk in the flavouring, so do just be careful, make sure you check the packaging. But they had so many different types of nuts. It was, yeah, madness. And then you can get big packets or little snack packs for lunch boxes. These were the fridges, and I was just showing you that there was absolutely nothing vegan in there, all cheese, milk and meat. And then this is what the aisles kind of look like, so very similar to other shops that I've taken you into.
This is this week's haul, which is from B&M. I have stuck with the £21 budget to have 7 breakfasts, 7 lunches and 7 dinners. It's made much harder at B&M by the fact they don't have any freezers, and they only, at least in my B&M, they only have meat, cheese and milk in the fridges, so obviously nothing that is vegan friendly other than a couple of margarines. So you're getting everything basically from tins or shelf stable, that sort of thing. They did have fresh bread, so I bought some of that, but that was the only fresh thing. Everything else is tinned and canned. But without further ado, let's just get straight on with it. The first thing I've got here are these little pots of fruit. So there are 3 in a pack. They had fruit in juice or in jelly, but I got them in juice. And I got 1 peach and pear and 1 pineapple. These were 89p each, so it came to 178 for the 2 of those. Next, I've got the bread, and this was mega reduced, so went in at the right time, obviously, which was after work. And I got these Warburtons brown thins. These were reduced down to 35p from £1.40. There are 6 brown sliced thins in there. And then this Warburton's soft tiger bloomer as well. Now, I absolutely love tiger bread, so I'm very excited about this find for only 40p, down from 165. It's an absolute bargain, and I did take some footage of some other reduced bread items. These weren't the only 2. This is just what I decided to go with. Next, I will get into the tins. So if I start with these kidney beans, these were 2 for 90p, or they were 55p each. So they came down to 45p with the offer. So I got 2 kidney beans, and then I got 3 chickpeas. So that came out to 145 with the offer and then the 55p. Next are these sliced carrots in water. These were on offer just down to 40p and 300 grams of that. Next, I got 2 of these, but I won't pick them both up. But I got 2 of these cut green beans, and these were 70p each, 400 grams. So I've got 4 portions of green beans, essentially. Next are these Frey Bentos soup. You might know Frey Bentos from the tinned pies. Didn't have any of those, but they did have these soups. So this is lentil and vegetables. It clearly states suitable for vegans on it. And I was just looking for something with some protein. So I was really happy to find these, and these were 89p each, and I bought 2. Next, I got this pasta sauce. This is a dolmio onion and garlic bolognese, 400 grams, and
This was £1.49. I also got this Sharwood's spicy masala sizzler little packet of sauce, I suppose. And this was only 49p, so such a good price for this. Next, I got this Home Pride Chilli cooking sauce. Now, this was on offer for 75p, so a really good buy there. Next, I got these roasted red peppers. So you can see I'm trying to get my veg and fruit in, but just through tins. This was £1.39 and there's 480 grams of roasted red peppers in here. Move on to some treats, because obviously, since I got treats at Farm Foods, I'm like, a treat is a good thing to include. And so I was pleased that I could get this into the budget. These chocolate creams are basically bourbons, but just off brand, and they are clearly vegan approved on the front. These were 3 for £1, so I got 3 packets of them. So we've got a couple of biscuits per night after dinner. Lovely. Next, I got some rice. These were both 55p each, and I got 1 pilau rice, and then I got 1 long grain rice. Next are these crisps, these lentil chips. They clearly say vegan on the front, and they're sour cream and onion, which is quite unusual for a vegan crisp. So I was very excited to see these, and these were only £1, and there's 4 portions in here. Next, oat milk. So they did have oat milk. They had oat milk, almond, and soya, and then they also had a Califia Farms pumpkin spiced barista blend, which was oat milk. And you know, that was very tempting, but I had no purpose for a pumpkin blend milk. But it didn't have a price on it either, so I don't know how much it is. So if any of you guys go into B&M and buy it, let me know if it's a bargain or not, because I was kind of tempted, but also I don't drink coffee, so I don't know what I'd have it with. But I digress. I bought this oat milk. This is normally £1.75 in there, but it was an offer for £1.40. That is pretty standard, I would say, of a sale price for this Outpro oat. I don't normally spend that much on my oat milk because I either get it on mega offer or just buy the little Aldi one, but it's fairly good for an Outpro one, so pleased with that. £1.40. And then finally, I got this Fuel granola. It clearly says vegan on the front, and this is a chocolate chunks version. It's meant to be high in protein, and it is 7.9 grams protein per serving, and there are 8 servings in here, so this is going to last me definitely all of my breakfast this week with some oat milk, and then that's kind of why I got the fruit as well to have alongside breakfast. So that is absolutely everything. And you might be wondering, you've bought pasta sauce, but I don't see any pasta in there. And I am going to include that in the total cost, but we have so much pasta in that it just seemed ridiculous to actually buy it again and just fill our cupboard full of pasta. So I'm going to use pasta I have on hand because I only need it for 2 portions as well. So again, it just seemed wasteful. And the pasta was 69p for 500 grams. So I've added that on to the total. So the total of everything, including what I would have spent on the pasta, comes to £20.62. So within budget. And I'm excited to show you what I've got planned for all of this. Quickest breakfast ever was 50 grams of granola and then a splash of oat milk. Really good. This was just to make a chickpea curry with the spicy masala paste, and I added red peppers in there as well with some rice and green beans. So starting with chickpeas and red pepper just chopped from the roasted red pepper jar, and I'm just going to add in some oil and then let this heat before I add in the spicy masala sizzler packet.
and I have got my green beans and rice ready to go into the microwave. So I think this is going to take me less than 10 minutes, which will be ideal. Now this is starting to sizzle. I'm just going to add in the spicy masala sizzler sauce. The sauce was quite thick, so I ended up adding some boiling water to this while I was stirring it as well, just to thin it out ever so slightly, because it was more of a paste, I suppose, rather than a sauce. This is dinner: chickpea and red pepper spicy masala with pilau rice and green beans. I added salt and pepper to the green beans, but otherwise that's it. So I am going to try and make some meatballs with these red kidney beans today. And with that, I am going to have some pasta. Now, obviously, I just have this Farm Foods pasta because it was in the cupboard already, but I did factor in buying pasta there, which would have been 69p. I've got this bolognese sauce, and I'm going to chop some of these sliced carrots really finely and fry them off and have them as part of the sauce as well. And to make the meatballs, all I'm going to need is this tin of kidney beans, and then I'm going to toast 3 of these Warburton's soft brown sliced thins, and then I am going to make these into breadcrumbs. Now, as I do with these videos, I am going to use seasonings that I already have in the cupboard to hopefully give them a bit of a meaty, beefy flavour. But I've never done this before, so we'll just see how it goes. But the first thing I'm going to do is toast these, and then I'm going to mash these. So I'll show you when I am doing that. The first thing I'm going to do is mash these kidney beans, and surprisingly, I didn't have to heat them up or anything. Obviously, they're fully cooked, but they mashed way better than I thought they would. So that was a pleasant surprise. And then I just added some seasoning. So I went in first with some garlic powder, and then I went in with my paprika. These are my 2 absolute must-haves for anything I'm cooking. And then I went in with some black pepper, some soy sauce, some of the Magi liquid seasoning, some Henderson's relish, which is like a Worcestershire sauce alternative, and then the breadcrumbs. So I toasted those fins and then put them in the blender, and it worked super well to make a nice fine breadcrumb. And now I am just making them into little ball shapes and putting them onto my foil here to go in to air fry. There we go. So I am going to add these to the air fryer, and I'm probably going to cook them for about 15 to 20 minutes and turn them halfway. So whilst those were air frying, I put the pasta on to boil to cook it on the stove, and then I added some chopped carrots to my pan, which had some oil in already. I added in some garlic granules and some black pepper as well before just giving it a good stir and letting that get brown a little bit before I then added my dolmio sauce. I didn't use all of this, so it can definitely be stretched further as well, but I just gave that a really good mix in to make sure everything was combined. And this worked really well with the little bits of carrots. It looked like it was meant to be in the sauce sort of thing. So if you have fussy children or partners or whatever like that, they hopefully shouldn't notice. And then I just added that to the pasta, obviously, when that was all cooked, and gave it a good mix before adding my meatballs. This is how the meatballs have come out. They do look crumbly, which is to be expected, but actually they've all stayed together, which I think is pretty impressive given nothing was used to bind them. So I'm going to add these to my pasta. And this is the final product. Looks pretty good to me. I've got one here as well. Lovely. Next, I'm just going to make a super easy sandwich option. So I am just opening my tin of chickpeas, and then I added my chickpeas to the blender along with probably about half of the chickpea water. I then added in some oil and some salt, as well as some garlic puree. and then I just popped the lid on and gave it a bit of a pulse before then deciding it needed a little bit more liquid because it wasn't blending quite as well, and I added some ice in there. It did end up quite thin, so I'd probably add in maybe a little bit less water or a little bit less of the chickpea water. But now I have just cut in half one of the red peppers and I'm just spreading that hummus onto my tiger bread. As you can see, it's probably a little bit thin for my liking, but that is okay. It still held out pretty well in the sandwich, actually. It didn't fall out or anything. Then I added my red pepper to this before I cut the sandwich in half. This also thickened up in the fridge for the next sandwich that I made, so that was a bit easier. You can see it's a little bit messy, a little bit coming through, but it, like I say, when you're eating the sandwich, the hummus wasn't coming out or anything, so it was okay. And then just to serve this with some of my lentil crisps as well. This was really nice filling lunch.
Okay, so it's time to have the soup, but unfortunately I didn't realise that there is only one, so it serves one, there's only one serving in here, and per can it's 144 calories, so I'm not going to give myself 70 calories and call that lunch and half it even though it's one. So what I'm going to do is use this. I've got some of the bolognese sauce left. I'm going to cook up some pasta, so I'm going to have 4 portions of like lentil vegetable pasta with the soup as the sauce, with adding in some bolognese sauce as well. So not a traditional use of a soup, but I'm sure it will be fine, and it's just going to be a lot more filling and appropriate for a lunch than half a can of a one person soup. So there we go. If you buy these soups, there's only one serving in here. Lesson learned. So here we go. I've just got the pasta cooking. Okay, so I just added the can of soup in. This is 2 portions of pasta here. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of the bolognese sauce just to make it slightly less soupy, because obviously I don't know how weird this is going to taste, but we'll see. Okay, and this is what it's ended up looking like after adding in some bolognese sauce. And I've had a taste and it tastes nice. It's probably not going to be my first choice of meals, but certainly I think it will be filling and it's worked out. Okay, this is what we've got. So I'm going to make a bean chili. So I've got this chili cooking sauce, a tin of red kidney beans, roasted red peppers, green beans to have on the side, along with some rice. And this is going to make 2 portions, and I imagine I probably will have some of the cooking sauce left as well, but yeah, that's 2 meals.
The first thing I'm doing is just adding the full can of rinsed kidney beans to a pan, and then I have chopped up a couple of the red peppers. I'm adding in some oil at that point, as well as some garlic granules and some black pepper. And then I also put in some cayenne too. This is just to make the sauce that it already comes with, this chili sauce, a little bit more flavorful. And then I just added some more seasonings as I went as well. There's also kidney beans in this sauce, so it was very bean heavy, I would say, but I just gave this a very good mix. I mean, the sauce was tasty, by the way, guys, so it was worth it. And here is the final meal. So I microwaved the rice and microwaved the green beans, and then just added it all onto my plate when it was all nice and hot. This was super simple, super quick, and I made another portion there.
So I have got the chickpeas here, the rest of the can of carrots. I've got the rest of the breadcrumbs that I made, crisps, and I've got 2 of these thins left, or maybe 3. 3 of those left. So I'm going to make a bit of a chickpea burger sort of vibe with the chickpeas and the carrots. So chickpea, carrot sort of vibe. I'm going to add seasonings obviously, and then have that in one of these thins with some crisps on the side, and this is going to make 2 meals. The first thing that I'm going to do is cut these carrots really finely. I'm starting with these carrots and just chopping them really finely. Now I will say I think this actually requires the tinned carrots because they were so soft. So when I added the chickpeas in here, along with my seasonings and my oil and mashed them, they were really easy to combine. So I just added some garlic granules in there along with some paprika as well as some Italian mixed herbs. And then I added in some black pepper and some salt as well before giving that all a good stir before I then went ahead and started mashing. This was a little bit harder than the kidney beans, I would say, but definitely worth it. You might want to cook the chickpeas a little bit to get an easier mash, I don't know. And then I added in the rest of my breadcrumbs as well and gave this a really good stir around. Again, I didn't add any binding agent as such, but this held together really well. This is how they've ended up looking. So I've got 2 per meal. They're just like chickpea burgers. So I let the oil heat up a little bit before I then went in with these patties and put them onto the stove, and I let them cook, I want to say for about 5 minutes before I then turned them over. I wanted them nice and crispy but not burnt obviously, but I just really wanted to make sure the insides cooked through. That was my priority here. This is what they look like, about 5 minutes on each side. Here we go. So I've got 2 of the thins with the chickpea patties in and some crisps. I've got 1 thin left, but I do have loads of tiger bread left, so I will use the tiger bread as a sandwich for one of them. There we go.
So that is everything I made this week with groceries purely from B&M, coming out at under £1 per meal. Now, pretty much everything has been branded other than perhaps the kidney beans and chickpeas. There are a lot of branded things in B&M, so whilst they might be a good price for the brand, it still doesn't necessarily make them cheap. So I think the Fuel granola is a prime example of that. The price I paid for it was pretty good, but in the scheme of things, I could get an own brand Aldi cereal for much cheaper, couldn't I? Same with the Outpro milk. That was a pretty decent price for Outpro oat milk, but again, I could get Aldi oat milk for £1.09, so 30p cheaper, so that sort of thing. But you do have to consider the value of that branded item in comparison to other places, which B&M still does do really well with. Now, I did try and make the meals this week a bit more interesting than just having beans, rice, for each meal. So I hope you found those useful. I would say the chickpea patties, I would really recommend you try making those. They were really good, really, really good. The kidney bean meatballs, that needs some tweaking. They tasted fine. The first time around, they were a good texture as well, but heating them up for the second portion were quite dry, which I think is quite common with kidney beans. I've tried to make kidney bean burgers before and it's still been quite dry, but using the thins for breadcrumbs worked wonderfully. I definitely do that again. And with the reduction on the thins, way cheaper than if I were to try and buy breadcrumbs from a shop anyway. So I would really, really recommend doing that. And I just blended them up in a regular blender. I don't have a food processor or anything, and it worked super well. And then obviously it goes to show as well, I'd planned soup and bread for 4 meals and then realised the soups only serve 1. So pivoting with the pasta, if I had bought the full bag of 500-gram pasta, I would have used it all because I would have done 6 portions of pasta, so it would have been the whole bag gone. But I think it goes to show that I had more than enough food that I was able to pivot and make it stretch and make that work. So yeah, definitely enough food this week, but it wasn't my favorite meals. I would say the tinned green beans as well, they were tastier than I thought they would be. I would definitely have those again, 100%. I'm normally more of a frozen vegetable girl than a tinned, but the green beans tinned were absolutely fine. But yeah, everything had a slight taste where you could tell that I'd been shelf stable, so for a full week it did get a little bit much. the fuel granola was great, and actually it looked like such a small portion when I weighed out 50 grams, but it was really filling. Like, genuinely didn't snack until time for lunch, so it was really good. And the chocolate creams obviously were a delight, so I'd always recommend, actually, now I've had a dessert and a treat once in a video, I'm going to try and make that happen most times, because it just gives you like a little spark at the end of the day. So yeah, recommend the biscuits. Overall, I would say this probably comes out maybe on the bottom of these £1 videos that I've done so far, which sounds really harsh. Farm Foods was incredible. M&S was quite good as well, really. And I just think Iceland, similar but better, because I had frozen options and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think this is probably kind of come at the bottom of the league table if I were to make a league table of them. But if you are low on money and you only have a B&M in walking distance of you, let's say, you don't have the money for the bus, or that's going to eat into your budget for the week for your groceries if you do get the bus, that sort of thing. If B&M is all that's accessible to you, you can get a lift to B&M, not anywhere else, you will be able to eat balanced meals. And that's what I was trying to show with this video as well. Not just that you can eat, because let's be real, I could have just got ramen bowls for lunch and dinner every day and spent £14 that way, and then had bread, margarine, cereal, crisps. I could have bulked it out, but that isn't balance. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But I was able to eat balanced. I did find tinned veg, canned fruit. So yeah, it's doable, not my preference. But I think it's really good to show what you can do with those tins as well, particularly if you are wanting to do a bit of a low spend and clear out your cupboards. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below, subscribe to my channel, and do hype this video up if you liked it. And I will see you next week. Bye!